nice things to her before I leave. So I call my mom, and my mom is crying hysterical, and she says, talk to him. And I ask her, who? Talk to who? She says, talk to Ephraim. Who's Ephraim? Talk to Ephraim. I don't know who Ephraim is. Never heard of Ephraim. She says, talk to Ephraim, he's your cousin. I'm like, who's my cousin? Never heard of him. He said, fine. He said, I'll call you, please. I said, okay, stop crying and I'll talk to him. Just tell him to call me. So how do we get to Ephraim? That day, at the same time, I'm about to call my mom. My mom is going through a phone book looking for rabbis that are going to give her son, her poor son, some blessings and hopefully heal him after so many years of struggling health-wise. And she starts calling people all over the United States, all over Israel, anyone she could find. Only today, no one wants to answer. Hashem dictated that no one will answer. Eventually, she calls a number in Israel, and a woman answers, and she asks for a certain rabbi, and the woman says in Hebrew, no, there's no such person. It's the wrong number. My mom loses it and starts hysterical crying. And imagine, you're calling for an hour, you're trying to find one rabbi, no one is answering. You're crying for your son. You know he's losing it. You're seeing him, he looks like an old man, and he's always in pain. And no one wants to answer. And my mom starts crying hysterical, and all of a sudden the woman on the other side of the phone in Israel, the wrong phone number, says, Doris, which is my mom's name. My mom says, well, how do you know my name? Who is this? She goes, it's me, Pnina, your niece. How did I get to you? I don't even have your phone number. We've never spoken on the phone ever. How did I get to you? Because I don't know how you got to me, but if you got to me, there has to be a reason. Why are you crying? My son, he's in bad condition. I think he's dying. She says, well, I'm looking for a rabbi. She goes, well, if you're looking for a rabbi, why don't you talk to my brother Ephraim? He's a big Talmid Chacham, and he lives next door to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, Zichrono Livracha. You'll talk to me? Of course I'll talk to you. You're the famous aunt from America. So she calls Ephraim. Ephraim is in the kollel, but his wife has him call my mom back. And Ephraim and I have never met. When I left Israel, he was still a baby. And he starts talking to my mom, hears her out, and he asks a question. He says, does he speak Hebrew? She goes, yeah, he speaks Hebrew. She goes, will he talk to me? Because I don't think he'll talk to you. He doesn't talk to me even. He doesn't talk to anybody. He became very antisocial. When you're in pain, you tend not to want to have friends. Or family or anyone. At that very moment, when she said, I don't think he's going to talk to you, that's when I called her. At that very moment, remember I told you a few minutes ago, I told you I called her, and she's hysterical and telling me, talk to Ephraim? That's exactly when I called her. I was calling her to say goodbye, and she's telling me, talk to Ephraim. So you see the Hashgacha Pratit from Hashem, he watches every single step, and he's only going to give you a test if he knows for sure that you're going to pass it. As soon as you get to a point where you cannot pass it, he intervenes. We got to that point. Ephraim calls me, I agreed to have him call me. Ephraim calls me and we talk. And he tells me my favorite story to this day, which is the story about Judah and Tamar. And the complicated parts, the midrashim, and all these different things. And then I ask him questions and he gives me answers. We talk for an hour and 40 minutes. I tell him a problem I have. He gives me a source in the Torah of someone that had exactly the same problem. I ask him a question, he gives me an answer. But computer. Next week, he calls me at the same time, Thursday at 4 o'clock. We have a conversation for 3 hours. Same thing, questions and answers. Week after that, we talk for 5 minutes. Week after that, we talk for 7 hours. And from that day forward, every Thursday at 4 o'clock, we had an average conversation of about 6 to 7 hours. And obviously became even more than just Thursday. And little by little, we did tshuva. Little by little, we started realizing that the signs wasn't just a, hey, Yaron, I exist. The signs were, it's time to wake up, son. It's time to wake up. You don't want to be the one that gets the payment in this world. You want to be the one that gets the payment in the next world. Even though that may mean that the payment in this world may or may not come. The key is to make sure you get the payment for the next world. Why? Because this world, according to Chazal, is like a hallway. It's a corridor. Where are you going to live? 70 years, 80 years, 100 years? In comparison to the real life, it's nothing. Just imagine a drop of water in the entire ocean. It's nothing. So seeing both sides of the world, seeing the business world and the ultimate success that I think anyone and everyone would ever want, if they're after monetary success, we reached it. Of course, I wasn't the richest guy in the world, but
Close to it.
very rich. Enough to buy whatever I wanted. What anyone out there that's after material wants, we had it. But still having that nothing at the same time is mind-boggling, because what's the difference between someone who's depressed that's rich versus someone that's depressed that's poor? The guy that's rich is hopeless. The guy that's poor still has hope. Why? Because he says, I'm depressed now, but once I get money, I'll be rich. I'll show you guys how to be happy. He still has hope that money is going to buy him happiness. So once we got to that point, we realized it's not so true. So since then, we started learning Torah, Baruch Hashem, and Lat we started getting more involved in that life versus the business life. I've closed down my business at this point. I'm more focused on Torah. I try to do Kiruv. And my goal today and every day is to try to do two things. To help the people that either don't know or don't believe.